And we are back with our boy Kelin. How you doing?
Chicka chow. Doing good.
You're doing chicka chow good, huh?
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't have a soundboard, so I have to do it myself.
Yeah. Indeed. So you're really doing that good, though, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm doing pretty good.
Any particular reason? Anything you could talk about?
Well, really, the girlfriend's moving out here, so
Nice.
that's the main reason. I'm getting stoked for that. Get to go on a nice trip and bring her back. So
Nice. That's
that'll be
some
fun.
next level stuff right there, buddy.
Yeah,
There you go.
indeed.
Well, congrats to that.
Thank you.
All I got going on, really, other than the usual, is the Nuggets beat the Lakers tonight for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And, some listeners know that the Nuggets are not my favorite team, but it's probably the Utah Jazz, and then it'll be the Seattle Supersonics when they eventually come back. But I was looking at a statistics of what team has won the most championships in the NBA, and I believe the Lakers and the Celtics are both tied at 17. So I think the NBA wants a Lakers Celtics matchup again because that's pretty classic.
Uh-huh.
But Nuggets haven't even ever been to the finals. And if you go down the next five, it's like Celtics, Lakers, then there's the Warriors, another California team, and then teams from Texas like the Rockets, Spurs. So I'm just kind of generally a fan of anything in the West that isn't California or Texas in the NBA.
There you go.
So that's where my loyalty lies, but I'm also a little sad because the Seattle Kraken got defeated in Game 7 in the NHL playoffs. And but it's their second year existing, so getting to the second round with Game 7 is pretty solid.
Hell yeah.
And that's how I'm doing. It's either that or avoiding DeSantis articles or Trump articles.
That's a delicate dance. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I stay the bare minimum informed on politics now.
Yep.
And all I will say is it's just insane to me that the news media talks about Trump like nothing happened with that fucking guy.
Yeah.
The most they'll do is yeah, he's continuing to lie about the election. Yeah. He's an evil fucking grifter con man fascist.
Stop showing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. To say he lied a bunch today. Don't even show any footage of it.
And then right underneath an article like that will be Joe Biden is running his second campaign based on his successes in the economy. Will that matter with voters? And it's sure,
no.
But at the end of the day, that's not going to change anybody's fucking vote. Anybody who's voting for Trump is going to still vote for him, and fuck them. And then it's shit. They're not going to replace the old piece of shit dude. I guess I'll vote for old piece of shit dude.
Yep.
And it's like,
Exactly.
so yeah, barring any like somebody passing away or like the party radically throwing their support behind somebody else, whether that's Democrats or Republicans, then there's no reason for me to pay attention. But that being said, we're all on the internet and they try to get you.
Indeed.
But with that, I suppose I was going to talk a little bit about food, but fuck that. We started recording late. So let's just get right into music.
Right to the tunes.
Mm-hmm.
The-
First of all, got anything coming up? Anything new released? New gigs?
Well, nothing to be spoken of yet.
Fair enough. Uh,
Everything's the same.
cool. Gamma Paw released their first human drummer single, The Homeless King.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is on Bandcamp, and then on the 22nd, it'll pop up on all the other streaming services. So
Nice.
by the time I post this, yeah, it still won't be out. But yeah, we're
Go
gonna
buy
hope
it.
to release a single once a month as best we can produce them. With that, have you, before we get into new recommendations of new music, have you been revisiting any old classics? Diving into anything that is older but you had never really tried before?
Well, actually, the album I sent you got me going down the Ahmad Jamal rabbit hole. So I've been listening to him, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
He,
I
to elaborate on that from last time, I believe that was last show.
yeah,
Uh, Ahmad Jamal Trio is so far the most liked jazz shown to Jacob.
nice.
It's, I forget where you put the quote in or whatever, but it was just that he's like really refined and tasteful with every run he does.
Yeah.
And I really fucking appreciate it. It kind of makes me look at some of that other jazz that is like just obnoxious, and you're like,
What the fuck you doing?
you're good, but maybe you could have been a mod good if you cared a little more. I don't know. Maybe you care too much. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But tried out a little bit of the Awakening by the Ahmad Jamal Trio. That's the only other thing I did besides the one album you recommended that I can't remember the title off the top of my head.
If not for me, live at the but not for me, live at the Pershing.
Yep,
What?
yep.
Yeah.
That one's really good. Um,
Indeed.
I've just been doing a little bit of a kind of checking out this playlist. It's called the 50 best Brit pop albums. How much do you know about Brit pop?
Oh. Is that like that XTC band?
I feel
Thomas
like
Dolby?
XTC might be a little bit before that, but maybe.
That Arctic
But
Monkeys?
no, it's kind of more like in the 90s, stuff like Blur.
Ah.
And there's some others, but I'm, like I said, just barely scraping the surface with it. But I tried out one album by a band called Pulp,
Oh
and
yeah, Pulp. I've heard of
yeah,
them.
and the album is Different Class.
Yeah.
And they have a huge song off of that, has 180 million listens, and it's Common People. Is that a cover
Yeah.
or is it them who did that? Do you even know that song?
Not off the top of my head, but it does. I feel like I've looked this up. I've looked that band up off based off. I think probably that song.
Common people,
Yeah,
like common people do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That one.
it's a really catchy tune. I was listening to it on my walk tonight, and I was like, all right. And the whole record is pretty tasty. Some songs I like more than others. But I do kind of like the vibe of Brit pop. I don't know what it is about it. It's just kind of like slightly cheeky, drugged out rock and roll. with like kind of weird spacey keyboard and sample choices. So it's kind of like, yeah, smoke a bowl, clean your house, fun stuff. Or like, yeah, out on a walk on a sunny afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
Um, if there's no older stuff that you're diving into or revisiting, you want to get into new releases?
Yeah, well, sounds good.
All right, what's your first one?
Well, I wonder if we have the same one. Is one of your classic listens kind of released a new one?
Uh,
That's not ringing a bell? Okay.
no.
Did you see the Allison Goldfrapp
Wait a minute, was
release?
that a title?
No, that's her name.
Say it again.
Allison Goldfrapp.
Oh,
Don't you
you're
listen to Goldfrapp?
no, not really.
Or am I thinking of someone else? Okay, never mind. Yeah, Goldfrapp is, yeah, do you know who they are? Old,
No.
oh, they're like an old electro pop
Huh.
band. Like
Maybe I've
from,
come across them,
so
but
I think it's like the main person from that just released an album as like a solo album.
hmm.
It's
And what's her
called
name?
The
It is
Alice.
Goldfrapp, Allison Goldfrapp.
Yeah,
Okay.
Allison Goldfrapp, and the album is The Love Invention, and it's pretty cool. It sounds got like a little, I mean, a little more heavy than Goldfrapp, like the heavier, like dancey, you know. Kind of,
Okay.
but yeah, it's pretty fun.
Is it like technoed out dance music or kind of like
It's a little more
um
like it's more towards
LCD
like
sound system?
yeah, crank it back a little bit towards the more Chiba, but not near like what down that far at all.
Okay. Probably older Morchiba too. Morchiba's gotten really chilled out. I mean, they were always chill, but
Yeah,
yeah, there was stuff that
like
was a
the
little more upbeat.
but there's like cool. I think the instrumentals are a little more involved than your standard stuff.
Dance record.
Yeah,
All right.
some cooler stuff going on. But yeah, sounds cool.
Hell yeah. Um, I did go down the Lewis Cole and Genevieve, the singer for Nowhere hole, a little bit. So I guess their records are like a year old, so still kind of new, but trying out Genevieve's solo record Forever Forever and Lewis Cole's Some Unused Songs. Didn't get that
Nice.
deep on them, but yeah, I am very into Nowhere, and I'm excited to kind of delve deeper into those two. Just figure that's worth a mention real quick. Actual new releases. This one was maybe a couple months back, but the album is by Drum Corps. Do you remember them or know of them?
I have heard of that. I don't can't like
Yeah.
name
It's
stuff.
Drum Corps is a metal hardcore inspired solo project of Aaron Spector, an electronic musician and DJ, well known within the breakcore scene. First time I'm hearing a breakcore, but um,
Huh.
he has a record where he like samples and DJs like hardcore music, so like heavy metal and all that stuff, but it's all like put through patches and like sped up and slowed down and glitched out a little.
Huh.
So I'm assuming that's what
Interesting.
breakcore is. I'm gonna have to investigate that. But this
I thought I've
newer
heard.
one is a lot more chill, and it's like almost like Nintendo core, like weird little
Oh,
Nintendo-y noises.
yeah.
But yeah,
That's fun.
it's really chilled out. Still really fun bleeps and bloops and glitchity stuff. But this one's called Night Ride, and it's 7
Damn.
songs, and it's really good for, as you might guess, nighttime riding around, nighttime walk. Really contemplative, make you think. Background stuff. Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What's your next one?
Let's see. Next random one I just happened to click on. Let's see, the London. What was her album called? London Co. And so, I'm gonna totally butcher this. Fatumata Diawara. She's Malian, and
Oh, Fatu Bata
she lives.
Matuwaran. Sure.
Yeah,
No, I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know who that is.
She lives in um France now, but yeah, she's from Mali.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So the album's in Malian. Very
Uh-huh.
interesting language. And it's cool, just like kind of different, you know, kind of poppy, kind of. I don't know. It's different.
Indie rock pop
They
or
call her
more
folk
electronic?
Mali blues, but it's definitely got a lot of electronic stuff going on. It's pretty more modern folk record for sure. But yeah, it's cool.
How comparable is it to something like Dengue Fever, where they had the kind of the indie rock tune, almost poppy rock tunes, but it had the Cambodian singer?
I haven't. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, I don't know. Probably pretty close. It's cool.
So I guess in general, more guitar, bass, and drums driven, or more electronic.
Well, I didn't like get all the way through, but it seemed pretty. There's definitely guitar. There's like some cool like sax and stuff,
Okay.
but there's a lot of effects on the vocals and stuff. That's the where they like it definitely. It's like kind of a little psyche maybe. So yeah,
Yeah. No, I've noticed that with like the bands that have the foreign singers, especially if it's more like an Asian language or anything like that. It is this like kind of weird psych popness. And then of course there's
yeah,
just like more airy electronic spaced out versions of that, but there is this like weird like subgenre of psych rock that's like let's go get a lady from Asia and have her sing on it, and we'll use kind of musical modes and progressions from that region, and we'll just kind of do this indie like the whatever that little organ sound on the keyboard,
yeah.
like almost sounds like Kill Bill soundtrack stuff. But that's what where my
Yep.
curiosity is with that. I think, man, mentioned it a few episodes back that was pretty similar with that, like the Ash or something like that. I can't remember the title of it. Um, I checked out the new Devil Driver album.
Oh, nice.
Eh, they're
Yeah.
getting really worn out, and I was trying to place it. Um, I like groove metal. It's one of my more favorite subgenres of metal. First two
hmm
Devil Driver records are really good to me, and the second one definitely evolved like beyond the first album a lot, and then third album came out and it was kind of like still pretty good, but I had also seen them live, and the live show kind of got me off of riding their dick a little bit because I was just like, oh, that's not really a great performance. Maybe it was a one-off night, but so I kind of ignored them for like the last four albums or something like that. I think this is something like their seventh. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm not gonna look it up. But even in the title, it's like Dealing with Demons Volume 2. It's like, what the fuck was Dealing with Demons Volume 1? Like, it's just like kind of just seems worn out. And which is weird because as you listen to the album, there's actually kind of a lot of interesting like approaches to the mix and interesting ideas on the guitar. Dez sounds as good as he ever has, screaming his stuff, but it's just losing. It
Wow.
just doesn't have a certain amount of. I don't know, like it almost sounds like they don't give a shit. Like they're going through the motions of like, okay, we're doing a groove metal album, have like a cool little double kick here, scream this, and then we got to go to that kind of cleaner, delayed guitar part, maybe a church bell. Like you just feel like they're going through the
It,
motions.
he doesn't have any anger anymore. You have to be like, once you hit 30, just don't get. It's not worth the energy to get mad at shit. So it's probably just isn't screaming the same.
Maybe it's just like a lack of creativity and like playing a character more. Yeah, because this type of metal tends to be like, well, the title track. Sorry, not the title track, but the first track is "I Have No Pity," and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you sure? And then it's
Huh?
like you could get into a song like that, and he's like playing like a weird witch demon creature that has no pity, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's like a character. But I think why I mentioned that is there was recently a show in Vegas, Sick New World, which is basically all the new metal bands and stuff I listened to when I was a teenager in that era.
Yeah.
And just they all came to Vegas and played sets, so they're all fucking old as shit. And he came out
Yeah.
with Cold Chamber, and I was like, this is way less complicated, but I like it so much more than Devil Driver because it has like character and like creativity to it. And
Yeah.
it's like he'll bounce around with the tone more. He'll sing and then scream and then do the Cookie Monster, like go, like
Yeah.
it's more fun. So it's like I think that's the key is you get older and heavy styles of music. It's like you gotta have like not take yourself too seriously, a little more fun. Yeah, definitely putting on a character like a fucking Rob Zombie. He can come out in his 60s and just be like, meow, like just like
uh,
you'd be like, hell yeah, I'm down.
Bring it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it was too bad because I listened to it on my walk and I was remembering how much I loved the first two records and how much I do love Dez as a singer. But like halfway through the record, I just found myself thinking about my own band, like just business stuff. Like, oh, did we talk to that one venue? Did we go? Oh no, wait. This is the song. It's still going. Pay attention to the song. But yeah, didn't keep me locked in.
Yeah. Damn.
Man, well, got another record.
I got a couple more.
Okay.
The next one is Mary Sue, which is spelled really weird. It's Mary
Mm-hmm.
with an extra E and Sue like Sioux Falls, but without the X.
Oh, is that the singer from Susie and the Banshees?
I don't know.
Anyway, keep talking. I'll look that up.
But yeah. She's also like a psych folk. Very so cool. Uh cool guitar. I like her guitar picking pretty interesting little things and yeah, some tasty instrumentals behind her. She's pretty heavy lyrical content. Like this one song, these people interviewed her. It's a song she wrote after doing an ayahuasca ceremony, and the lyrics were after the George Floyd protests. So it's yeah, pretty heavy psych folk, but it is
Hmm.
cool.
Is that is her first name spelled Mariee?
Yeah,
Okay, that's definitely not the Susie and the Banshees. Interesting.
yeah.
Her most popular track right now is Wizard Flurry Home.
There you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, this one just came out, so I think it's a little pretty far down on her list, but
She's been a fixture in the neo folk scene since her 2007 debut.
there you go.
Ah,
Huh?
okay.
She's old news to the psych folk people, I guess. But she
That
has a new
is
album.
that is interesting, like the new grass and neo folk. And there's even like I saw a playlist for new funk, like NU funk.
Oh yeah,
It's just
isn't
like
that like really old though?
I don't even know. It's just
That what
like
is that what not Depeche Mode, Daft Punk is? I
mm,
don't know.
no, they're like an electronic dance record group. I don't think they ever got into the
Word.
funk circles as much. Yeah, this new funk, I think it is pretty modern and stuff like Tank and the Bangas, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's just kind of funny. Every genre has that now, and it's just like, can we just say that it's like modern funk or modern folk? Like, at like what point does it totally become its own genre? Because it's like newgrass and then traditional bluegrass. I see the differences there and why you want to kind of be distinctive about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like new funk, I'm like, it's just new funk music, and that's spelled N-E-W, not N-U.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah,
uh,
it's new folk, like, because I don't know the half do's of folk music, but maybe somebody has a
either.
strong opinion about that.
You gotta tell people you're gonna be psychedelic. You can't just go to a folk concert and hear psych without being ready.
Yeah, that is actually kind of funny too. Is it's like psych grass, psych rock, psych pop, and it's just like it's 2023. Basically, a lot of us have done a lot more drugs. That's all it is. It's still folk music. It's just there's more drugs out there these days.
You're like the producer was like, "You want reverb?" And they're like, "Ah, shit, yeah,
Fuck yes.
yeah, fuck it up with reverb."
Can you hear like a delay that like shifts pitch
I want
without
you to like hear the
drowning?
first word when I sing the last word still.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean, I guess maybe that's it. Like, cause like a lot of psychedelic rock in the '60s, you go back and listen to it, you're like, oh, there's a lot of weird, kooky ideas on this. But
yeah.
then, yeah, it kind of follows the drugs. Like all the kooky, weird ideas in the '70s was a little more cocaine fueled, and then '90s heroin, '80s coke, and then yeah, I think like coke and heroin are not as popular anymore. 2010s is I don't know, is maybe like pot again, pot and just drinking. Oh, and oh, what am I thinking? It's MDMA. And
Oh
then
yeah.
this decade, I think there's been a bit of a psychedelics revival, like people doing mushrooms and acid and stuff. So maybe that's all it is.
Yeah.
Same genre, different drugs.
Yeah. Well,
That was a bit of a tangent, but yeah,
it's true. Yeah, I got another one on the same
sure.
line. Do you know Neil Gaiman, the author?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you heard of this album? He did an album.
Oh, I didn't know he did music.
I think this is his first foray. And so it's Neil Gaiman and the Four Play String Quartet, which that name is taken by a awesome jazz group, I will say, but fine.
Mm-hmm.
The album's called Signs of Life, and it is just like him reading some of his poetry. Apparently, he sings on one of them, kind of, but it's mostly just him doing his poetry over some music that was written to back up his poetry.
Hmm.
So if
Did
you
you
like Neil
enjoy it?
Gaiman, good. The little bit I listened to sounded interesting. I
Yeah.
do really like his book. Like I've only read one of them, and it's good. But
I like reading poetry, and it's real specific. I find singular poems.
hmm
I don't think there's any poet that I like. I could just go through a whole book of their stuff. Well, back when I was a huge System of a Down fan, I still a big fan of them, but my relationship with them has changed.
yeah,
Um, I bought Surge's poetry book, and that was fun because it had
oh
a lot of
nice.
really cool artwork in it.
hmm
But yeah, I always preferred reading it more. Whenever I hear people speak poetry, I get the douche chills pretty easily.
That I think he does it really well.
Okay.
And just to be clear, he is not a poet. Like his books are novels,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
so
he
I
did
this
the
might not be
Sandman.
sounds right,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, like it might not be meant to be poems. He's just reading. Maybe he just thinks of it as reading a short story or something.
Hmm.
Whatever. So
Okay. Oh yeah,
sorry if you're listening, Neil.
he did the graphic novel. Um, yeah, the Sandman. A couple
Nice.
others. I always thought it was
You.
Neil Gaiman, but I don't know. Maybe it is Gaiman.
Hmm, that's what I've heard. It's The book I read is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. It's very good.
Hmm. I hope we're not mixing up guys, but I'm pretty sure that's the same dude. Um, let's see what else. Hmm. I listened to this new cover album by Head PE, another rap rock group from back in the 90s. They're another
Nice.
band where I thought first two records were really good, third they start to fall off a bit, and then they saw the tides of time coming and they're like, "Oh, new metal and rap metal's going away. There's only so much we can do." And it became one of those bands where the singer fires members constantly, so it doesn't even just feels like his project.
Hmm.
And they released an album in like 2001 or 2 that was like they totally switched over to punk. They would say that they were a little like mixing it up like new metal and punk and rap, but it was like, no, you're doing this weird annoying punk thing now and not doing it well. Like there's punk I from that era I love, like Pennywise and whatnot, but it was like, yo, ugh. It was like, go back to what you were doing, but I hadn't listened to them for a while. So they released this 70s hits from the pit, and they just cover 70s hits.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nice.
And it's pretty bad. And I will say that they're good musicians. They're doing interesting musical stuff on it.
Uh-huh.
But you know when you come across some of these rock bands where it's like they watched hundreds of hours of YouTube tutorials on how to do production at home, which is fine, but it
Yeah.
has that like made through iTunes rock band sound to it.
Yeah.
And it's like very like recorded in a tin can kind of thing. And so it's not a criticism of people that do that at home. It's just that people get so locked into tutorial recommendations that might not even be totally accurate from YouTube
Yeah.
and then do all this stuff to like just put all this weird production sheen over it that it has like no emotion.
Yeah.
Like the guitar strums, they do a lot of like pseudo reggae stuff on it, like
Hmm.
Reggae, Margaritaville, and a horse with no name. And but every time they do the reggae guitar thing, it's like, is that an electric guitar? Is that a keyboard patch? Like, it just doesn't sound good. I know it's a guitar, but
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it's like, it's kind of too bad because I'm like, you know as well as I do that I'm like, I love genre mixing and like doing a heavy reggae song or flipping a hit song on its head and doing like trance with it or like whatever. So throughout this album, it is this blend of like heavy rock mixed with reggae, mixed with these like 70s pop song structures. And there's little like bass fills and drum fills, and they're doing cool shit, but where they choose to do it is so obvious. There's like no like loose, like I've lived with these songs energy to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like very like borderline corny covers of a lot of really great songs. But it's like
Word.
it's almost fun. Like I'm like, that's okay, horse no name, or like, oh, American Pie. Oh, the Joker. And
Huh.
then I was pissed because they did I'm gonna do it anyways, but they did 50 ways to leave your lover. And Josiah, the drummer in Gamma Paw right now, like just busted out that drum pattern the other day with a beat,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh fuck, that's a good song." We like kind of half-assed our way through it, just like not knowing it off the top of my head. It's
Yeah.
like, that'd be a fun song to do, all kind of heavy and chunked out, and then this comes up on my Spotify. I'm like, damn it! But I think we could do a better job.
There you go.
So
Give it to him.
yeah, but there are some things that they did in their version where I'm like, oh, I could see myself taking that route with the bass on it, so I gotta not do that. Gotta do a different approach. So it's probably good for that reason.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I think that is all. Oh, you have to listen to this album before we talk about it. Did you listen to that Velt album I sent you?
Don't believe I had a chance.
Entropy is the main line to God.
Was that the one on? Okay, yeah, I did see it, but I haven't had a chance to listen to it.
Okay, you have to listen to it before we talk about it, because it's another odd album. This is like almost the flip of the Devil Driver and Head PE records.
Oh yeah.
Is that it's really interesting, and I don't. It's like the weirdest band I've heard in a minute, where I'm like, that really sounds like itself. Like I can't think of other bands that sound like this. And I think
Huh.
they've been around since like at least the '90s. Let's get their bio real quick. So they had an album that came out in '94 called Aphrodisiac, and that has a little more of a familiar sound to it. It's like, okay, '90s alternative rock or whatever. But some dude on my Facebook said that this is my new favorite band, and it was within a post of being thankful that he got to go see the Smashing Pumpkins and the Cure, two bands I like.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, so what's this band that's tops those two that he loves so much? So I just went and found what I think is their newest record. I'm gonna double check that. I guess they got a new single called The Everlasting Gobstopper. But
Huh.
yeah, the last album was 2022, this one we're talking about. And some of it's like so interesting and cool sounding and it gets really creative with the mix. It's the opposite of the Head PE issue. But at
Nice.
times they get so loose and free with it that they'll mix the voice in a certain part of a song and you're like, what are you doing? Like that sounds ow. Like, and it's like weird. Did they like do this themselves, or like were they really specific in the studio? Like these are such weird mixing choices.
Huh.
But they are a soul-powered shoegaze band that was dream pop at its core, yet just as able to dish out driving riffs and battering drums. The Velt were misunderstood from the beginning, led by identical twins who were proud to cite the likes of Echo and the Bunnymen and Public Enemy among their inspirations.
Wow.
That's a really good way of putting it. Public Enemy and Echo and the Bunnymen. If you know those two groups, it's like, huh, yeah, I kind of get that blend.
Word.
Um,
That sounds interesting.
yeah, so you have to listen to it before we like break it down. But
All
I
right.
I sent it to Shocky too. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, and it's the most intrigued I've been by something, and still sort of been not 100% won over. Like, I like them purely because it's different, but I don't know how much I'm gonna come back to it. Like, if I really like it that much, but I respect it.
Gotcha. Well, I got one that you should check out, and we can do the same thing next time because it's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I didn't get a good chance to really get into it. I just listened to a few tracks, but it caught my eye
Mm-hmm.
because it's called The Bonk. Have you heard of The Bonk?
The Bonk.
The album is
Um,
greater than or equal to The Bonk.
I have not, so I'll give it a listen.
Yeah, let's see, combining elements of rock, garage, pop, and jazz. And just a little bit I jumped around. I was like, this is interesting. I wanna look into this a little more.
Okay.
One part, like the organ you were talking about earlier, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that made an appearance on one part. It's like, ooh, Napoleon Dynamite organ. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're based in Dublin, Ireland. It says.
Yeah, they're an interesting. Like, apparently they are pretty reclusive. Randomly will play a set, randomly release an album.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's what's interesting about some of these bands. Like, that Black MIDI band I told you about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go back to them very often. Like I have to be in a real particular mood for them. But like
Yeah.
I do like really respect them and like wow, that's I haven't heard anything quite like that. And that's what's interesting with certain bands like these. It's like yeah, that's really awesome and I get like kind of obsessed for an evening and then for maybe for a week I'm checking stuff out, but then it fades away.
Yep.
And that's definitely kind of what I'm wondering with the Velt. I'm like, are you gonna have staying power and be something I'm really into? Like, so one band that I know I would be way more into, but no easy access to their music is the Cardiacs. I don't know if we ever talked about them on the podcast. I know we've talked about them, but like really bouncy all over the place, weird British rock music that's like kind of Frank Zappa-y, but yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's just like you have to go pull up the full albums on YouTube. You can't do it on Spotify. It's just like, damn it. Um, Charming Hostess. Remember that band I told you about?
Yeah.
Same deal, man. Like, has quite a few records, but I can't indulge them as easily. So then I kind of forget. And I'm just like, God damn it.
Yeah. Definitely thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything you want to mention before we get out of here? I gotta make a movie time with Dan.
Oh, that's all the tunes I got.
Alrighty. Well, when do you move the lady up to Utah?
I'm going out this Saturday and gonna be out there for 2 weeks. About.
Mm,
So
okay, maybe sneak in one more recording before you head out, if possible.
yeah.
And I can
We'll see
stretch
what
it
we get
up,
with that.
stretch it out a little. But
Sounds good.
yeah, um, you have a good one. I'll listen to the bonk. You gotta listen to the belt.
All right, bonk felt son.
Bonk belt. Bye. Welcome back, Dan. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Been eating a little healthier, going on these long walks. Got a lot of
Good,
good
good.
band stuff going on. Um, as I talked with Kelin about in the music segment, I'm just kind of trying to avoid Trump and DeSantis articles where they
Yep,
talk about
it's
them like
probably
they
a good
are
choice.
normal candidates.
Yeah,
It's just like, oh my god. Like, just, I realize that reading that doesn't do any good for me, and me being extra informed on that shit doesn't help anything. So,
yep.
I'm doing what I need to when I need to do it. Definitely voting and all that, but I don't need to be up on that shit. That's kind of what I've
You don't
decided.
need to hear the dumb shit that one of them said it, you know,
No,
in every week, you know. You don't have to be up
because,
to date on
yeah,
how terrible they actually are.
that's what I mean. Well, and it's like the speculation that's in the media. I did talk about this with Kellen a little bit, so I'll be brief, but the it's just they're trying to stir shit, but like being completely disingenuous about the stakes. So for
Yeah.
Trump, they'll be like, "Oh, he's gonna have a town hall meeting on CNN. I wonder how it's gonna go for his candidacy." You're like, he's a fucking piece of shit fascist that tried to overthrow the government. What the fuck are you talking about? It's gonna be insane, and it was. But then
Yep.
it'll go to Biden. It'll be like, should Biden be running on the economy? He might lose if he takes that angle. And it's just like, I'm voting for a fart in a shoebox over Trump. So, like, there's nothing Biden can do. Like, if some real fucked up shit he did came out, then I'd be, I don't know. Like, at that point, you're voting for the Trump who wants to be fascist and take shit over. We know this, it's a
Yep.
fact. So, are you then voting for the administration of Biden and hope he gets impeached? Like, but none of that's gonna come out. Like,
Yeah.
but I'm just thinking of like, what's the circumstance where I would either not vote against Trump, or like just not vote. Like it was like I have to vote to keep Trump out. I wish the
Yep.
choices were better on the Democratic ticket, but fucking yeah, they can run Hillary, and I'd vote Hillary at this point. I abstained back in 2016, thinking I wasn't needed. I was up in Seattle, but anyway, enough of that. I as I'm trying to like not be thinking about it, I clearly
Yeah.
like have been bombarded with it, and I'm like, oh god, it's ramping up. It's gonna be an election year soon. Fuck. But anyway, movies. We're gonna be doing
Yeah, let's
our
get into silly
diary.
movies.
Yeah, silly fucking movies. Uh, we're just doing our diary and going through reviewing what isn't the Stephen King list. We're still working on that. We're almost done with the 90s, and we'll catch y'all up on our rankings. Yeah, we're just gonna do the 90s ranking, and then at the very end of it all, we're gonna do our top 10 once we've watched all of it. And maybe even do a couple fun ones like best main accent,
Yeah.
best like what's the term? The best Stephen King house player.
Yeah.
It's just like Kathy Bates is
I think
probably number one, but you never know.
I think we should get into our bottom three as well, but we can get to that, when we're all finished.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. That could be part of the same episode. Maybe bottom five and then top 10. But
Mm,
anyway, we got pretty caught up with our diary, so this one might not go as long as other ones, but that's okay. We're going to start with our first movie that we watched that we haven't reviewed yet, which is called Creating Remlazar. Every child has a Remlazar. Zach and Ashley discover the meaning of true friendship when they create an imaginary friend, the superhero Remlazar. And I gave it 1.5 stars out of 5, but I loved it.
wow.
I like it a lot. What are your thoughts on creating Remlazar?
It was a lot more musical than I thought it was going to be going in,
Yeah.
and a lot less Christian than I thought it was going to be going in.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was definitely a main aspect of it. I highly recommend going and watching the Best of the Worst episode on Red Letter Media where they watched Remlazar. It's very funny, and there's like some inside jokey stuff they were already doing with the other movies they watched on that episode, and the way it like bled into Remlazar makes it extra funny. Like, can't recreate it for you here, so I suggest watching that. But one thing they brought up that we also felt pretty strongly is like, oh fuck, when is this gonna go all crazy Christian?
Yeah,
And like, it never does.
it felt very much like Christian media. Like
Yeah.
the whole vibe of the thing was very much. So when are we going to talk about Jesus?
Uh-huh. And there's shots like where he's like with the kids in the water. Like, is he gonna baptize them, or
Yeah.
they're looking for this symbol? It's like, is it gonna be a cross? No, it's the eternity symbol. And
Mm,
the one fucked up weird spot is they have to get to the Twin Towers to find the. In I forget what they called it, but it was like the Quizak Hatteract or something like that. And
yeah, definite Dune references in this.
oh yeah, yeah. They're a giant weird floating head like Baron forget his name. Harkonnen.
Harkonnen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say for how musical it is, it's hilarious. It feels very like, are they serious right now? Like her
Yeah.
Rambley's house. Her. It's like his voice is fucking hilarious. And there's a lot of like genre jumping. They like do a rap, and then they did um barbershop quartet.
Yeah.
Um they're even almost like an island jam. And yeah, that was kind of the funny part too, is when they go to uh, Central Park and they just start singing with randos,
Yep.
and it's just like I just picture them. They're like just interacting with mentally ill homeless people in Central Park, just like, come on, we could sing too. And then they're like, yeah, okay, and they're just immediately on board. No actors to speak of. I
No.
mean,
No.
it's also gets like, if it's not gonna go Christian, it does. Remazar gets creepy. Like, why is he in this kid's bedroom singing to him?
Yep. Well,
And it never
most
goes there.
kids, most kids like content has a little bit of that like creepiness, I guess. I don't know. It's just like
Yeah.
everything's very strange, very fever dreamy.
Well, they're like
But I mean,
sitting with him, looking up at him. He's got his arms around him, but he's keeping his hands away.
yeah,
They're like kind of hovering, like not on their arms or shoulders, just kind of hovering around them. And it's like, okay, they never crossing that line into like, this is really too
yeah.
creepy. Well, who the fuck made this movie? Speaking of which, it's directed by Scott Zacharin. Um, see what
Directed
else
and
he made.
written.
Soup of the Day, Jekyll, Girls Team, Nine Models and One Coach, and Stan Lee's Mutant Monsters and Marvels. Charlie Cobb's Flash Bash. Weird. Yeah, not the filmography I would have expected from the creator of Rem Lazar.
No.
Uh, it's a fun watch. It's very quick, so it is a fun one to like have a couple brews with your buddies and just giggle at how stupid it is.
Yeah, 48 minutes, made for TV, I guess movie. Doesn't really count as feature length, but you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really all I got left on Rem Lazar. It's funny and
Yep.
flies by. But because it flew by, we ended up watching another movie that night as well. I knocked out one of we got I kind of rip off Red Letter Media. They call it best of the worst. I call it so bad it's good. We got an ongoing list, some from Red Letter Media, some from other sources, and one that I've always wanted to get to because I'm a big sucker for monkeys and movies and chimps and other primates. And this one is most valuable player or MVP, most valuable primate.
Yep.
And this came out in 2000. Jack skates a little faster, shoots a little harder, and is driving everyone bananas. Jack is a 3-year-old chimpanzee who has been the subject of a long-term experiment by Dr. Kendall, a researcher who's been teaching Jack to communicate through sign language. Jack scrambles onto the ice in the midst of practice for Steven's junior league hockey team, and he and his teammates discover the monkey has a natural talent for the game. Um, One thing I want to point out in that plot description, it says he's 3 years old. At what age is it kind of known that chimps like flip the fuck out and start ripping off testicles and
You know, I'm not a zoologist, don't know that, but I'm thinking it's pretty close to
I
that point.
Well, it's like kind of it's whenever they're like reaching puberty kind of for them. And I don't know if that's how quick that is for them. But I remember I'd heard that somewhere. I might have to look that up. I gave it 1 star out of 5, and I really
Yeah.
liked it. And it was funny and very stupid.
It was
And yeah,
everything that you would expect out of a chimp hockey movie.
I'm gonna look this up. Why don't you kind of elaborate on your thoughts on it and your ranking?
The most interesting thing I thought about it was the director. If you look at his directing credits, it's Robert Vince.
Uh,
Every single one of his directing credits are some sort of animal slash sports movie.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I mean, some are like Animal Christmas, I guess, but like 90% are animal sports. And it's either dogs or chimps. And he
Mm.
built an entire career on just dumb animal movies. It's pretty amazing.
I couldn't
Like,
find that age thing, but with this director, I wondered, does he have like a certain skill set that makes him able to
I
like
don't know.
handle
Yeah,
the animals better than other directors might, or he just likes this subject matter?
yeah,
It's like keep it rolling. It's like Adam Sandler with like shitty comedies.
yeah.
Just like
This is
nope, just
also his
churn them out.
first. This is his first directing credit too. So from 2000 to 2022, he's made 25 different animal movies.
Yeah, wow. See, at least with like Adam Sandler, he does a bunch of shitty comedies, but then he like maybe makes a kind of good one or plays a serious role.
Yeah.
Like, and then he just comes back to the cash cow. This guy is like, I wonder how well he does with these, just sticking with this formula.
I mean, I gotta respect it. He's got steady work and he keeps churning out movies. Like,
Yeah,
sure, they're not the greatest, but like he's got a lane, he's sticking in it, and he seems to be doing all right.
his his picture on Letterboxd is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Robert Vince.
Hmm.
Um, even at the beginning of MVP, they have like the Air Bud Productions or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like the success. Did he do Air Bud or he like?
No, no, this is his first directing credit, so
So
somebody else
Air
must
Bud
have
was a
done that.
success, and they're like, okay, we're gonna start this production company, and this is our guy. He's just
See,
gonna
he
do a
directed
bunch.
Air Bud Seventh Inning Fetch and Air Buddies
Yeah.
and, stuff in that lane for sure. And under that same, I guess, franchise. I don't know how that all works.
Oh
But
man,
yeah.
there's some in here we need to watch. There's Space Buddies, a bunch of dogs in space. Uh, Spy Mate. MXP, Most Extreme Primate. Monkey Up looks awesome. And Russell Madness, a little tiny monkey, and Jack Russell Terrier. Oh man, we might have to do this list after we're done with Stephen King.
You know,
All
you might have to do that one yourself. I mean, I can
right.
handle one every now and again, but I'm not doing a straight list of
No, we're
25
gonna hit one every
shitty
day.
animal movies.
Yeah, we should probably do our John Carpenter list or finish our Brendan Fraser list before we get to that.
Yeah.
That's how we're like. I think we're done with the podcast. We're doing the Robert Vince list now.
We're doing the Air Bud lane of
Yeah, I think I've watched all
movies.
movies. Like we're done. Just gonna go outside now. There was one dude in the cast who popped up in another movie. It's the coach in this, and then he showed up. What were we watching? Oh yeah, we'll get to it. I remember what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the next day we watched Almost Heroes. Almost history, almost legends, mostly ridiculous. Two hapless explorers lead an ill fated 1804 expedition through the Pacific Northwest in a hopeless, doomed effort to reach the Pacific Ocean before Lewis and Clark. This is just a star vehicle buddy combo comedy with Chris Farley and Matthew Perry, and that's the whole point of the movie. Is
Yep.
here's this premise, and let's put these two together, and it should be great. And I gave it 2 stars out of 5, and I didn't like
Yep.
it.
It was very. It seemed like, I don't know, like they were just churning out a movie with stuff that had worked in the past. It seemed pretty safe for a comedy that
Yeah.
people might buy a ticket to and then immediately forget.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, I'm looking up this little bit of information that was interesting. Um, at the time, that's what they started to do to Chris Farley because Tommy Boy comes out. It's a big hit. I think
Yeah.
it still holds up. It's a great comedy. Um, but then
Yeah,
after
I love
that,
Chris Farley.
oh no,
Don't get
yeah,
me wrong.
he's great. But what they started doing with him is churning out all these other Chris Farley comedies, and they just think of these crazy premises, and
Yeah.
then they didn't really give him the range to do other stuff. They're like, what was the stuff that everybody laughed their asses off that Chris did in the last movie? It's like,
Yeah.
well, all right, let's have him fall down a hill. Let's have
Yeah.
him like flying off on something or attached to something. Like, I think
Hmm.
those bits are in Black Sheep, they're in Beverly Hills
Yeah.
Ninja.
Have him attacked by a wild animal. They
Yeah.
did a bird in this one, and in
It's
Black
like,
Sheep they had
oh
like a
god,
bat,
my
and
eyes!
yeah,
Like, just freaking
it's
out.
just this. It's the same skit, just redone.
Yeah. Now, he did have a small role in the movie Dirty Work, and I think that that was like darker. He's like an
Hmm.
abusive, like boyfriend drunk to this Saigon whore that has bitten his
Hmm.
nose off. And there's actually like a weird darkness to his like portrayal of this character in that movie. Like there's a little more to it than just Chris Farley.
Hmm.
And I'll always be sad about that because, as most people know, I'd be amazed if you didn't, that Chris Farley passed away. And I always kind of wanted to see him like take on a serious role or maybe like a
Yeah.
villain role because I think he actually has some pretty good acting chops when
Oh
given the
yeah.
chance.
I think that he was just so, put in a lane that
Mm-hmm.
he had a hard time getting work out of, I guess. Or maybe he didn't want it. I don't know. I guess I'm making assumptions, but I think
He was
seeing
pretty
what
into the
yeah,
drugs, so
yeah,
maybe that
seeing what
was
he
his
would
focus.
have become as an actor would have been very, very interesting.
Yeah, man. But yeah, he did a speedball, passed away. For Almost Heroes, filming was completed in the fall of 1996 with a 1997 release target. However, the film was delayed a full year due to the pending merger between Turner and Time Warner. Then Chris Farley passed away on December 18th, 1997, of a drug overdose. By the time the film was released in May 1998, Chris Farley had been dead nearly 6 months.
Oh,
So, yeah, just tragic. I remember when this came out and he had passed away, and I didn't want to watch it because I was like, that's sad. I don't want to see him like
yeah,
all coked out. And he's definitely like, his voice is like harsh and worn out. You can tell he's not as
yeah. You can
healthy.
tell he's not doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still his normal kind of Chris Farley character. He still does pretty decently. I wouldn't say it's completely obvious. I
Yeah.
may have not noticed unless, what happened, but
Yeah. And I mean, I'll say that he there's not much moisture in this like cloth he's trying to wring out some like juice from.
yeah.
But he does what he can with what they give him. Everybody else sucks in this.
Yep.
I like Matthew Perry and other things, and he's pretty fucking bad in this.
Yeah.
Like doing this weird English like Chandler. It's like it's so bad.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh yeah. Nothing it's not well made. I don't think the music sucks.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Mm,
not a whole lot nice to say about it.
no, no. Oh, well, this is interesting. We should do this maybe a bit more often. I guess it just depends on if it's worthwhile, but the budget is 30 million on this and the box office was 6.1 million. So, that was a pretty
Oh,
big bomb.
that
Luckily,
was a big bomb.
Chris didn't have to stick around to see that movie bomb.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all I got to say on that one, and that leads us back to Gremlins 2, the new batch. Here they grow again. Young sweethearts Billy and Kate move to the Big Apple, land jobs in a high-tech office park, and soon reunite with the friendly and lovable Gizmo. But a series of accidents creates a whole new generation of gremlins. The situation worsens when the devilish green creatures invade a top-secret laboratory and develop genetically altered powers, making them even harder to destroy. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I liked it. I loved it.
It's I don't know if I'd go that high, but it's maybe four out
Mm-hmm.
of five, but it's very self-aware. Like they know what they're doing. It's a silly Gremlins 2 movie. They even like make references to the first movie in like a comedic kind of, hey, you remember when we did the first one and it was a little more serious kind of
Mm-hmm.
way? Like it's just ridiculous puppet fun.
That is why I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Is not only is it self-aware, but it's totally like Joe Dante snubbing his nose at the studio that
Yeah.
obviously wanted a sequel, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this totally batshit insane sequel that
Hmm.
like takes the piss." And I mean, it's he basic. I mean, it opens with Looney Tunes to like signal like, yeah, this is all just gonna be one big crazy wild cartoon. And I
Yeah.
mean, how is it more cartoonish than to like have those cartoons open it? There's a moment where they go to the theater and Hulk Hogan's there, and he turns and talks to the camera. Um, there's all kinds of other little weird references and like. There's an awesome Key and Peele sketch about Gremlins 2. I highly recommend looking that
Yeah.
up.
It's
Um,
great.
but they yeah, they just threw everything at the wall. Like they just said, "Fuck it, we're gonna make a batshit insane movie," and that's why I love it so much. Christopher Lee in it is awesome. He might
Yep.
be my favorite character, but I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of great characters in it, and like this, it's really subversive. It's like a weird little punk rock kind of sequel. That's yeah,
Yeah.
just a big fat cartoon. A lot of
Yeah,
fun
it
little
very much
camera
is a
tricks and
cartoon.
effects.
Yeah.
Electricity gremlin, uh, the Hua gremlin. Like it's at the time, like I we watched it with our buddy Shocky, and he's like, "Oh, when I was a kid." I was like, "Oh, that's weird. That's not what I wanted." Like, and it was a disappointment, and I think it was a disappointment for me too, because for how much of it being a cartoon, it is very much like a subversive for adults kind of thing almost.
Yeah.
Like it's all very wink and nod like oh, you know what we're supposed to do in a movie? And, like they subvert that and just weird subtle insidey jokes and I don't know, it's incredible to me. I
Yeah.
can't think of much I don't like about it. I mean, it is a little bit of a comment on Hollywood too. Like there's
Yeah.
the whole Rambo
Yeah.
thing and all these different like rooms for this like TV channel. Where it's like the relaxation show and the blah blah blah, blah show and
They had just like a show with like a a like an older lady just getting hammered and cooking.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's what was that?
Oh man. You know what this would be a great double feature with is UHF.
Yeah. It's very there are similar notes for sure. Like they are very similar.
Yeah. Um anyway, I highly recommend it. There's one scene in it that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And it's like it's funny that that scared me so bad, but like one gremlin puts a mousetrap in a sandwich. And this lady like goes to grab it and take a bite without looking at it, and she's like, "Ah!" screaming over the phone. And yeah, when I was little, that scared the piss out of me.
Yeah.
It's like,
If
why
we
would
didn't convey, yeah, if we didn't convey how much of a cartoon this is, yes, there's a mousetrap in a sandwich.
Yeah, and it totally gets a lady. But I was like, who would ruin a sandwich like that? These monsters. Um, I don't know, but yeah. Oh, the coach from Most Valuable Primate showed up in this.
Yeah. No.
There's all kinds of motherfuckers showing up in it. They're faces you know, but they are like character actors that you never really remember the name of.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember the other detail. So, Tuco and Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad
Oh
are in
yeah.
this. So
It
yeah,
was, yeah. It's incredible. Very small cameo, not cameo because they weren't known at the time.
yeah.
Background work, basically, 1 or 2 lines tops. And yeah, Hank Schrader and Tuco are
Uh,
both in this movie as
and
just like
and I
little
called out. I was like, I think that's
throwaway
Tuco,
characters.
and we were like, no, because he looks all scrawny as fucking this, and then he got
Yeah, I mean, it
beefy.
was 1990. I mean, a good 20, 30 years ago.
He beefed up. But yeah, um, Phoebe Cates rules. I wish she did more stuff. That's really all I got. Joe Dante rules,
Yeah.
the director. He
Yeah.
did Gremlins, Gremlins 2, The Burbs, Twilight Zone the movie, Inner Space.
Airspace.
Couple. I want to see some more of his stuff. Some of it, maybe not so much, but I'm intrigued by some of this. There's the movie
Yeah.
Orgy, the Second Civil War, 2. It's like, what? And then some. Oh, Explorers, interesting. The Hole, I'm in. Oh shit. There's this movie 1993 Matinee, and it has John Goodman. Ooh, we might have to hit some more Joe Dante. That list
Yeah.
might be. Oh, he did Small Soldiers, classic
Yeah.
from when I was
Yeah.
little. Yeah, um, we're gonna have to watch more of him. I think we might get through that list a little easier than the Airbud list, but you know.
No.
Yeah, that's all the movies on the diary. We were gonna do one
Yeah.
other subject, but we're gonna save it for next week. So, anything else you want to get over before we call it good?
No, don't think so. Yeah, watch Gremlins
Alrighty.
too.
Yeah.
The rest of
Oh,
them, hit or miss.
yeah, we did that. We need to do that real quick. I think this is another sweep though. Gremlins 2 just fucking wins the whole thing.
Yeah, of course.
Best movie, best music, best cinematography, best acting. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all the other ones are silly and goofy, and sadly, Most Valuable Primate and Creating Gremlins are funnier than Almost Heroes, and that's sad. But
Yep.
all right, rest in peace, Chris Farley. Ta-ta! Thank you for listening to The Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at fakoshka@gmail.com. That is FAKOSHKA@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in.